How would you feel if you heard, "You're too fat"? What makes you think you can walk across a country? After all, you're too old. These words did not come from a family member, friend, or a stranger. Instead, the self-talk inside our speaker's mind. He asked us, have you ever told yourself something similar? Perhaps when you're about to start a new career, relationship, or ambitious project. In 2023, the bank where he worked unexpectedly failed. That is when he decided to design the life he wanted. For over 30 years, he held various leadership roles in the financial services industry. He is a 5th degree black belt holder in, excuse me if I butcher this, Bujinkan Jutsu, learning the esoteric art of the ninja. These include mental techniques of mind control and meditation. He studied hypnotherapy at Hypnosis Motivation Institute under the Father of Modern Hypnosis, Dr. John Kappas. He taught these techniques to assist clients change their limiting beliefs with hypnosis to retrain their subconscious minds. In the last 2 years, he has hiked over 1,000 miles across Spain and Portugal with just 2 changes of clothes on the Caminos de Santiago. In 2023, when he returned from his 3rd Camino, he became a digital nomad. He rented his home in California and traveled to Medellin, Colombia. While there, he decided to start the Leader's Path to guide frustrated leaders to find their passion and create a more fulfilling life. Camino means way, road, or path. The Leader's Path and life itself is a Camino, a journey to decide to take, a journey of experiences, insights, and steps taken along the way. Please join me in welcoming from Albania, your Leader's Path guide, past president of the Golden Gate Breakfast Club, Tony Woodall.
Thank you, Patricia and Golden Gate Breakfast Club, for being interested in my Caminos and the insight that I found on those journeys.
I am very sad that I may not be able to complete my Camino. This would be a big accomplishment, a big adventure, and to think that my stupid knee gave way within 7 days is just, I don't know, I'm just feeling a bit...
How would you be feeling? Have you ever felt like that? You're in business, your career, a relationship, working on a goal, and it isn't going like you planned or dreamed it would. Does your mind start saying to you, you're a failure? What made you think you can accomplish this? This is too hard for you. You're too old to walk across a country. Okay, you probably never told yourself that. It's not like you're Forrest Gump or something. But has your mind told you that kind of crap? Put a yes in the chat if you've ever had that said to your own mind. You know, I really wasn't going to show this to you. You weren't meant to see this video. I made it in a very sad state when my knee went out. And when I made it, I swore I would never, ever let anyone see it. But I realized that it illustrates what I'm sharing today, not just building physical fitness, but building the most important muscle in our body, the brain. And today we'll learn about the leader's path to mental fitness. I had achieved my biggest goal to lose weight from 300 pounds to 185 in 2018. I had started running, and by mid-2019, I was running 8 to 10 miles a day. That was a first for me. I'd never been able to do that before. So to celebrate my successes, I decided to do what I was told that I couldn't do when I was fat. So I took a big leap out of an airplane twice. And then on the morning of August 16th, a month later, I stood up out of bed, took a step, and almost dropped to my knees. And for the next 3 months, I could hardly walk without my legs buckling. I was afraid I would never walk again. I saw the best neurologist in San Francisco. He said I had a spinal stenosis near my L5 vertebrae. Had no idea. And a bone spur pointing right into my spinal cord. That explained why my legs buckled when I turned my head or made any sudden movements. So I asked the doctor, I said, can I continue running? He said, only if you don't want to walk anymore. Well, I said, I was hiking 5 to 15 miles a day as well, and on weekends, and I felt better walking. So I asked the doctor, says, could I walk, And he goes, oh yeah, sure, walk all you want. Well, at the Golden Gate Breakfast Club meeting in April of 2020, in the middle of COVID, Jeff Davidson came and shared his walk on the Camino de Santiago from the French city of Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to the city of Santiago de Compostela in Spain. You can see it in the good example of that walking across Spain, a 500-mile walk across Spain. Jeff's journey inspired me, and I said out loud in my living room, I'm going to walk across the country. Well, after COVID in 2022, I started the Camino with my daughter, Melissa. We walked 1,420 meters up and down the Pyrenees on day one. We continued up and down mountainous terrain. And sadly, on the 5th day at Estella, Melissa had to return to the U.S. for work. She was worried about her dad doing this alone. Not only that, she actually talked to several people and had them check up on me along the way. She was that worried about it. And I told her, I said, I've been training for this for, a year or more. I got this. 2 days later, walking down a very small hill on the way to Navarrete, my knee went out. And when I say small hill, it wasn't a 1,420 meter hill. It was an off-ramp of a highway. Very small. But I could barely walk. And I hobbled the last mile into Navarrete and up the hill. And by the way, for those of you who are thinking about the Camino, almost every city on the Camino is uphill. So I decided to take a rest day and then a second day. And I sat there recording my sorrow, as you saw, as my mind started telling me I was a failure. I was a loser. I was devastated, to be honest with you. Have you ever felt like that? Heard those voices in your head when life didn't go your way? Put a 1 in the chat for yes. And if you've never, ever heard negative self-talk, put a 2. I'd like to find out what you think. Well, there are 2 common questions people ask about when walking the Camino. How much should I train for the Camino? And what should I pack? On the Camino, like on the leader's path, the question really isn't how much I should train. Instead, the question should be, what should I train? To train the muscles in my body, Jeff and I did many 10 to 15 mile hikes with high elevations in the year before I left. Up Mount Tam, down Mount Tam, up Mount Diablo, many mountains and hills within Marin County and elsewhere. After the first day of the Pyrenees, I texted Jeff. I said, you know all those hills we climbed? Not enough. He already knew that, and he replied with a simple smile emoji. That's it, just a smile. He knew what was up. Well, after I returned from the Camino and did some research, I learned that I didn't train the right muscles. I learned I needed to work more on the muscles that made the knees work and stretching. Janice Litvin, our member here, actually told me I needed to do more squats and more stretching. So I actually started doing more of that before my next Camino. But building and stretching these muscles as much as possible is crucial to preventing knee problems on long hikes. And I wasn't the only one with knee problems. People much younger than me on the Camino had braces on their knees and walking with limps and everything else. So I didn't feel so bad. But the other critical muscle we need to train is the brain. Our brain is a muscle, and it's our most powerful muscle in our body. And in the video, my mind was saying to me, what made you think you could walk across Spain? You're too old for this. I was only 65. I'm not too old. Even your daughter thought you couldn't do it. And again, she was worried, and she had people check up on me. Suddenly, however, something unexpected happened on the way to achieving your goal. Life happened, change happened, and the saboteurs in your mind jump and start attacking you. Have you ever had something unexpected like this happen to you? Of course, we all do. Life happens. Have these kinds of thoughts come to your mind? Put a yes in the chat to let us know. Of course we do. We all do. Everybody has those voices that come out when we don't want them to. Your mind will start judging you, judging others, and judging the circumstances that made this happen. Your other internal saboteurs will join in as well. The hyperachiever, the goal getter. Most of you know me as the goal getter. It just jumped on me and told me I couldn't achieve this goal. I might as well go home. I didn't show you all the video because there was a lot worse thoughts going through my mind at that time. And I could have quit right there. My mind said I had a reason to quit. Have you ever let your mind convince you to quit something, a goal that you had? Well, instead of quitting, I thought about all the hikes I had completed before the Camino. I had walked over the Pyrenees on the first day and down the mountain. I actually survived what's called the knee wrecker at Alto de Padrón. And I'd walked over 100 miles so far, and I'd enjoyed every step. So I took a taxi to Najera, my next stop, went to the clinic and was diagnosed with just tendonitis. They bandaged my knee, as you can see there on the left. It looked really cool. My knees felt much better, and they gave me high-strength ibuprofen, referred to as vitamin I by Camino pilgrims, by the way. That's common. And I asked their recommendation. 3 weeks rest, they said. I said, I can't do that. I'm on the Camino. Okay, they said, well, if you feel like walking in the morning, walk. So I woke up early and felt like walking and started walking for 24 kilometers and continued walking every day until I reached Santiago 30 days later. I overcame the physical and mental challenges of the Camino. The hardest part wasn't the physical challenges, it was the mental challenges, getting up every day and walking one step at a time, rain or shine. I learned that on the Camino and on the leader's path in life that we must train for physical fitness and mental fitness to be successful. On the Camino, I made the decision to start my coaching program, The Leader's Path, as Patricia said, to help leaders reclaim their leadership power and find their path to a fulfilling life. One of the most challenging problems on the leader's path, much like the Camino, are our internal thoughts, limiting beliefs, and our negative mindsets that we have. During my Camino, I found an operating system that has worked for me and hundreds of thousands of others to grow our mental fitness as we walk on the leader's path. And today I want to share the leader's path to mental fitness so that you can train your brain to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. On the leader's path to mental fitness, you will learn how to grow the 3 core mental muscles to thrive in challenging times. Achieving mental fitness will increase your capacity to respond to the challenges that you face in your life with a positive rather than a negative mindset. And the impact of achieving a stronger mental fitness will be reaching your peak performance more often, your peace of mind or mental wellness, and a stronger and healthier relationships personally and professionally. And our program is based on breakthrough research by a guy named Shahzad Shamin and recent discoveries in neuroscience, cognitive behavior, positive psychology, as well as peak performance science, resulting in the operating system of what Shahzad named positive intelligence, or PQ. And using factor analysis research, Shahzad found that only 3 core muscles are at the foot or root of mental fitness. These are the saboteur interceptor, the sage, and the self-command muscle. And it also turns out that we all have 10 saboteurs and 5 sage powers, and that we're being driven by both of those. So let's start talking about our saboteurs and our saboteur interceptor muscle. Strengthening our saboteur interceptor muscle will allow us to catch and stop our saboteurs as they start to hijack our minds with negative emotions. This will allow us to activate our sage powers more effectively. So we all have what's called the judge saboteur. Now, the judge will show up differently for each of us. Some of us judge ourselves, like me, more harshly, and some judge others, and some judge our circumstances more harshly. And if you just had the judge bothering you and hijacking you, you could easily overcome it with your sage mind, but the judge gangs up with our other accomplice saboteurs, as we like to call them. So your judge could enroll your controller, your hyperachiever, mine, your restless, your stickler, your pleaser, your hypervigilant, avoider, victim, or hyper-rational saboteurs. Your judge is going to gang up with 1 or 2 or more of your accomplished saboteurs and overcome your sage. So how do you know which of these accomplished saboteurs are likely to gang up on you and your judge? Well, we've created a saboteur assessment that will allow you to see which accomplished saboteurs show up the strongest against you. And as you can see, James here took the saboteur assessment. He has his controller, his avoider, and his hypervigilant attacking his mind the most. My top 3 are my hyperachiever, again, that goal setter who's out there helping me achieve my goals, but also giving me grief when I don't or don't want to. The pleaser, and of course, the avoider, Mr. Procrastinator, that comes about periodically. It will be different for everybody, however, but the idea is that you can know exactly who your saboteurs are in addition to your judge. And by doing that, you'll have a better opportunity for yourself to understand them and intercept them and stop them when they are hijacking you. Our saboteurs like to motivate us with their negative emotions like fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, and insecurity. While this may help sometimes and give us some success, it will not bring you happiness, obviously, with those kind of emotions. Our sage mind, on the other hand, and the sage powers motivates us through positive emotions, empathy, curiosity, creativity, passion, and purpose. Your sage generates your highest successes and sustained happiness. I know you're asking yourself, and you probably, we hear this all the time ourselves and get asked, aren't our negative emotions good for you? James says, I need my controller. If I don't take charge of everything, nothing will ever get done. So he uses that a lot. I know I wouldn't be successful at achieving my goals without my hyperachiever. But can also be negative at times. So aren't these negative emotions good for me? Well, let me ask you this. Think about it for a moment. Is pain good for you? What do you think? Is pain good for us? How long should you put your hand on a hot stove before you know it's painful? Well, painful negative emotions are only helpful for about 1 second, and that's just to alert us, to let us know about the dangers or whatever. So you want to think about this in response to your saboteurs and your sage powers. Staying in those negative emotions hurts our ability to see clearly and respond with empathy, curiosity, creativity, or laser-focused action. Negative emotions are your saboteurs hijacking your mind. So if we learn how to intercept our saboteurs and we think about our sage lives in the region of the brain that's associated with positive emotions, peace and calm, clear-headed focus, creativity, and the big picture. So using the 5 sage powers of explore, empathize, navigate, innovate, and activate will be more productive. And our sage mind operates from the sage perspective. Now, what is the sage perspective, you're probably asking? Well, essentially, it's every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift and opportunity. In my training in martial arts, our sensei, and whenever we bow in for our training, we say this phrase, Shikin Haramitsu Daiko Myo, which translated, been told by, our grandmaster, is that in every encounter or experience in life, we have the opportunity of gaining enlightenment. It's up to us to determine whether that experience is positive or negative. So I've been using this same philosophy for many years through my martial arts training. So you may wonder, well, how can that be? Well, let me tell you an example of one of my favorite stories. How many of you are familiar with Christopher Reeve? I know most of us here are old enough to remember Christopher Reeve. He played Superman in the 70s and 80s and all the movies. My favorite Superman of all. I don't know if you remember, but he was a big horseman, had a horse ranch. He fell off one of his horses one day and was paralyzed from the waist down. After this accident, Reeve became America's leading advocate for spinal cord injury research. He also worked tirelessly to promote medical advances, especially for controversial stem cell research. He became a real hero, not just a TV hero or movie hero, showing how he could turn this tragic accident into a gift and opportunity. Which perspective do you think is true for Christopher Reeve's situation? Your saboteur and mine would say, this is bad. You're never going to be able to walk again. You'll never be able to play Superman again. Your wife and your kids will stop loving you. Or your sage could say, this is a gift. Put a G for gift if you think it would be a gift for him, or a B for bad. And which is true? Which perspective do you think is true? Well, whichever you believe becomes true. When I was laid off last year after 13 years at First Republic Bank, I could have seen this as a negative, something bad. My sage told me it was a gift. It provided me with time and opportunity to travel and live more places. I could now reach my dream of being a digital nomad, of seeing places I'd never been before. The first trips that I did to Spain and to walk across the Camino just really enlightened me, and it made me realize I needed to get out more. I needed to do more traveling. So when I got laid off, the first thing I scheduled my next Camino in Portugal to walk the Portuguese Camino. I've been able to rent my home out and travel to Portugal, Spain, Colombia, Germany, Denmark, and now Albania, all within 1 year. I was able to spend more time with my daughters and family in Georgia, more than I have in 14 years in California. That was a gift to me. And I want you to notice what happened to your body when I told you that story as we move to the next piece of our puzzle here. The next phase which is our self-command muscle. We train the self-command muscle like we do our physical muscles. On the Leader's Path to Mental Fitness, we use what we call the PQ gym. And like at the gym where we perform reps, with weights and body weight exercises to grow our physical strength, we do PQ reps to grow our self-command muscle. And rather than explain exactly what a PQ rep is, I want to invite you to join me in doing some PQ reps, okay? So one of my favorites, and I think the easiest to do, is a breathing exercise. You can use breath, sound, sight, touch, different ways, but I want you to practice with me a PQ rep using breath. So what we're going to do is take a nice deep breath in, and then exhale out through our nose. And as you breathe in, I want you to feel the temperature of the air breathing through the nostrils. And as you let it out through your nose, feel the temperature of the air as you exhale. So for some people, it helps for them to close their eyes as they breathe. If you'd like to join me in closing your eyes, you can do that. It helps focus on your breath. And you can do this for about 10 to 15 seconds, 2 to 3 breaths roughly, if you want to do that. So let's do that right now. Concentrate as you exhale on the feeling of the air escaping, coming in, and the temperature. Okay, and when you feel like it, you can go ahead and open your eyes. Breathe normally again. As I mentioned, you can do PQ reps through breath, sound, sight, or touch, and all together at times. One of my other favorites that I'd like to show you and have you try is one using touch. So what I would like you to do is take your fingers, touch 2 fingertips together. I like to do all 3 or 4 of them there, but do at least one finger, rub it together with the attention, enough attention to feel the ridges on both fingers as you rub them together. So again, if you want to close your eyes, and you can breathe as well through this, focus on the attention of the touch and the ridges of both fingers. Now, take all the fingers of your hand, again, rub them together, feeling the attention and paying attention to the ridges on the fingers, and then slowly run the fingers of one hand down the fingers of the other, across the palm, again, paying attention to the sensations of touch, and then back up again down the other hand. Paying attention to the sensations of touch. Okay, now that you've done that, notice what happened. If you're feeling negative emotions in your mind, a simple 10-second rep can drop you back down into your body. Gets rid of that negative feeling, those negative emotions. How many of you wake up in the middle of the night around 3 a.m. or so like I do? Obviously I'm an older male and I have to go places, but, a lot of times I just wake up. And I used to wake up with, my mind racing with new ideas and, more importantly, old events that happened years ago that I still worry about. I still think about bringing up those bad emotions, ruminating for the rest of the night. How many of you do that? I saw a lot of hands raised. Yeah, a lot of us do, probably most of us. Well, I started using PQ reps when I'd wake up. Instead of sitting there worrying and thinking about it, I started doing either the breathing or the fingertip PQ rep, for example, and I would go right back to sleep without realizing it many times. And it has greatly improved my sleep as well as my mental state when I get up after not having to think about those negative emotions anymore. That's the power of the self-command muscle. The ability to do it, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's a practice. So the simplicity of this PQ operating system that I found that's really important is if you're feeling negative emotions, stop. You're in saboteur mode is what we call it. Do some PQ reps to quiet your saboteurs and activate your sage. Assume the sage perspective that every problem can be converted into a gift or an opportunity. And then you can generate that gift by using the sage powers of explore, empathize, navigate, innovate, and activate. So the question I'm sure you're wondering, is it really possible to shift from that saboteur mode where you're in those negative mindsets to the sage response, even in tough challenges? Well, the answer to that is yes, but the speed and depth of the shift depends on your strength of your mental muscles. So lasting positive change requires 20% insight and 80% mental muscle. Think about that for a second. How many times have you been to a conference or an event or a lunch and learn much like this, just like this one, and you had all these ideas and you're fired up to only go back to where you were before the presentation? That happens to all of us. I can't tell you the number of motivational seminars I used to go to, had all these great ideas, and then I'd go home and, I can't do that. That negative mindset would kick in, and I never did anything. And that's the distinction. It's only 20% insight. Oh, I got these great ideas, but it's 80% mental muscle. It's developing those mental muscles that makes the difference. Success requires intense initial practice. We recommend and say that you need 15 minutes a day for about 6 to 8 weeks. As we like to say, you can't defeat a gang of 10 bandits or saboteurs by sending one new fighter per day for 100 days. So on the Leader's Path, we actually have an app that we use to schedule and practice our PQ reps and learn more about the mental fitness program. It's like walking the Camino of life, taking that first step and then the next, onward and upward, as they say on the Camino, on the Leader's Path. The first section of the Leader's Path runs 6 weeks, which includes watching a 1-hour weekly video on the weekend before our weekly community coaching calls, 15 minutes a day of practice on the PQ reps with the app. And of course, we do recommend reading Shirzad's book. And then afterwards, after that 6 weeks, we continue, and I continue as your guide as you grow on the mental fitness program. So working on the mental fitness program is great. It helps us. One of the second question that people ask all the time is, what should I pack on the Camino? Well, what you should pack is the easy part. The lighter your pack, the better. As Patricia mentioned, I walked across Spain and in Portugal 2 times with 2 changes of clothes in my backpack. Actually, 1 change of clothes in the pack, 1 on my back. You see on the screen there, my yellow t-shirt and shorts there. I had that, and I had another t-shirt and 1 long sleeve shirt as well, just in case it got chilly in the morning or whatever. But that's all I had. You get to the place you're going, you take it off, change to the next day's clothes, wash the ones that you got, get those dry before the morning starts, and you're ready to go again. So you want the pack to be as light as possible when you're hiking. One of the funny things that you'll see along the Camino, especially that first day going up the Pyrenees, which is a 7 miles almost straight up before you get midway. But you'll see things that have been discarded along the way: extra shoes, boots, all kinds of clothes and hair dryers and all kind of things. Women like to take their blow dryers with them. They leave those on the side, but you'll see all these things discarded on the path because we want to take a lot. And I think Joanne mentioned a 40-pound pack on her hikes. Some hikes you have to take that much, but on the Camino, you don't want to carry that much. You want it to be as light as possible. You want to carry only what you need. Well, too often, not only do we carry too much physical stuff, often we carry the burdens of our mind in our pack. our internal saboteurs. We like to carry those with us. So, a lot of times I carry my judge. Well, you don't want to carry your judge with you or very much. You'll need to lighten that a little bit as you go along. Also, I like to carry my other saboteurs with me. Sometimes I want to carry my hyperachiever, which gets me all excited, but then gives me a hard time. So lighten that load a little bit. So you want to start taking out these things in our head and leaving those on the side of the road as you're going on your Camino and on the leader's path. It's crucial that we don't take our saboteurs with us on the leader's path, weighing us down with negative emotions and feelings. You want to take them out before you get started and definitely lighten them as you go. Now, I know you're asking, well, how do I know what saboteurs are hijacking me? Well, again, you can take my free saboteur assessment. I'm going to ask Carl if he would put in the chat the instructions here. But, if you can grab 30 minutes on my calendar, I'll give you the link to the assessment. You can then put that, like I said, put the calendar invite in there. I'll send you the assessment. Take the assessment and email me your results to my email at tony@tonywoodall.com. And when we meet, I'll review your assessment together with you and go over which saboteurs are impacting your happiness and fulfilling life. So I bet you have a lot of questions. And again, the one thing with talking to people that have walked the Camino about the Camino, we don't mind talking about the Camino at all. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we can open up to any questions that you have, and I will try to answer them. I saw Patricia's hand, then Bert go up there, and then I see Janelle and Richard Wank. So Patricia.
All right, how many of these principles did you learn in your ninja training?
A lot of them. I've actually, the stuff I learned from the PQ, from Shirzad, and the reason I like it so much is it ties into a lot of my ninja training. I used to do a lot of meditation and work on, and it's also my hypnosis training. That was part of I learned in my hypnosis how to change those subconscious negative limiting beliefs that we've gotten throughout life, and those are what eventually turn into those saboteurs that we have. So it's just really another way of phrasing it. So I learned a lot of those through my hypnotherapy training, through the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, as well as my martial arts training. We used to do a lot of training. Again, when you're fighting and you've got multiple attackers, you don't have time to deal with those mental thoughts going, okay, what do I need to do? What I need to, oh my God, I'm not going to win this fight. You don't have time to think about that. You have to concentrate on being around and being aware of what's going on. Again, it's getting that down into your body as opposed to up in your mind. So a lot of that was through the martial arts training. I did 20 something years of that, and so a good portion of that was throughout my life through hypnosis as well as the martial arts. Because I started the martial arts and I took the hypnosis stuff because I wanted to learn how the mind worked and how to overcome those negative thoughts, because I had many of those growing up, thanks to my stepfather and family. But then there's we can talk long stories about that. But I learned a lot of it through the martial arts training as well. But,
All right, Bert and then Janelle.
Yeah, after years and years of Scoutmasterish and backpacks and everything else, I'm going to be really quick. Merino wool.
Yep.
Merino wool. I wear all merino wool. It's lightweight. It's a miracle fabric. So I just recommend that. Underwear, everything, and that lightens your pack. I say that's the first thing to do. That's all.
Yeah, I will agree with that, Bert. The yellow shirt you saw in those slides there, that is merino wool. My socks are merino wool. My underwear is merino wool. Everything I wore that I could was merino wool. So I would definitely, it dries very fast and also doesn't smell. That's another good thing.
That's right. So, yeah, it's great. That's all.
I highly recommend merino wool.
I
Right?
think, Tony, you should get a corporate sponsor to reinforce your program, seeing that's what you talk about and
Yeah,
where.
that's true.
Woolly Mills. It's called Woolly Mills is a company I use. Very good.
Yeah, they're that's one of mine as well that I use. So
Yeah.
very good. Right.
Woolly Mills, good.
Yeah.
Janelle, unmute and ask your question.
This is a very simple question. Did you bring sunblock with you? And if you did, how many containers? And if you didn't, did you end up sunburning with squamish cancers on your face?
Actually, I did take sunblock 50 with me on the Camino. I had been hiking for, like I said, a year or so before that. Before I found out when Jeff mentioned the Camino in 2020 in COVID, and so I was doing a lot of hiking and would use the thing. But I've developed a wonderful suntan, and it helped me a lot. But yeah, I had to use it a lot because the 22 when I walked the Spanish or the French route across Spain, the temperatures were in the 30 to 35. Occasionally would get to 40 centigrade, which is anywhere from 90 to 100 degrees for at least the first 7 or 8 days, until I got to the Meseta. Then it got down to 85, which is surprising because the Meseta is the middle and it's usually the hottest part, and there is no shade on the Meseta. I was blessed that it got down to reasonable, but I did have a nice big brimmed hat while I was walking. I actually bought a sun and umbrella. Spent good money on like $70 for this beautiful, wonderful sun umbrella to be able to walk across the Meseta with out of the sun. And I left it on the plane in Paris and never saw it again. So I never got to use it, but I didn't really need it. Luckily, the Meseta, like I said, it's still sunny and sunshiny, but I did have my sunblock 50 is what I used when I was walking. But yeah, so and again, with my great suntan that I had created before I left, I was okay. So.
Are there any walks, Caminos that are flat? I could do flat. I don't see how I could be going up mountains though.
On the Spanish Camino or the French Camino across Spain, there are flat spots along the way. The first part of it, you're going through fairly mountainous terrain in the Navarre region, which is the eastern side of Spain, and that's one of the first hill is up the Pyrenees the first day from Saint Jean. After that, there are relatively minor hills and some flat places along the way, but not that many in that first third. Across the Meseta, that middle part from Burgos to Leon, most of it is flat. You can see 5 or 10 kilometers ahead of you or behind you in a lot of it, so you can see it. It's fairly flat. There's still, slight hills, and then there's also, again, you're on the Meseta mesas. There are the occasional mesas that you have to climb. Instead of walking around them, they decide they want you to go up them, across them. And the worst part of those isn't the trip up, because they're usually using switchbacks going up. You get to the top and it's this beautiful flat mesa up there. You see often miles around, 360-degree view. And then you go to the edge of the mesa and it's straight downhill. It's like a ski ramp. You look at, oh, this will be fun. I can imagine this on skis or a sled in the wintertime with snow. But walking down, anytime you're walking downhill, as Joanne mentioned earlier with her walking down, losing her toenails, I lost 4 or 5 of my toenails in my hikes, both in Spain and up Portugal as well, but going down the mountains and down the hills. So those are the worst parts. I got some great views of those downhill trips when you get to the top of those mesas. They're not high. They're only 300 or 400, meters up. So not really high, but that downhill straight shot down is, especially after my knee, that I didn't, once I hurt my knee, I was more afraid of those. So I did basically my own little switchbacks going straight down the hill. But there's some flat places. Now in Portugal, there's the on the Portuguese from Porto to Santiago, there's actually a coastal route. So you're actually walking across the Atlantic coast. If you want to go all the way up Portugal, you can go up the coast, and it's pretty much flat going up there. It's like walking along the Atlantic coast. A lot of times you're on boardwalks and sand dunes and things like that occasionally, but it's fairly flat. And then there's other flat places in there as well, but there's still a lot of hills in Portugal as well. So there's some.
We have Susan Rowan, then Michael Milstein, and Carl wants to know, if you get stuck, can you call an Uber?
Before we get, I saw Joanne had her hand. Joanne.
Okay, good. All right,
Great.
because I was going to come to Joanne even if I didn't saw her hand, because she specifically wanted to come to this meeting. So then Joanne was first, then Susan, then Mike.
Right,
Thank you so much. So last year I planned to go on Camino with a buddy, and at the last minute he opted out, and I was afraid to go by myself. So have you seen a lot of people going it by themselves? First question. Second, do you recommend hiking Camino de Primitivo? Because that's the most strenuous one, and I like to do the strenuous one. In June, what happened? Did he disappear? Oh, here. And third is, I don't speak any Spanish. Is it possible to survive with English? And also, someone mentioned the brand name called Willie Mills. So could you put that in a chat? So I'll investigate that brand. Thank you.
All right, Joanne, we charge extra when you get to 3 and 4 questions.
Yeah.
All right, can you remember the order? 1, because I would like to also know, especially women going by themselves.
That's really a great question. A lot of women are afraid to go by themselves. Almost every woman that I met on the Camino started by themselves. We ended up, some of my greatest friends that I've met are women that started by themselves. We ended up together and walking different places together. When I went to Portugal last year, I met a friend that I met on the Spanish, the first year from Germany. She was going to go walk Porto to Santiago, and I couldn't go because I had a job. But then when I didn't have a job, I met her in Porto, and we walked together. But everyone, and I've met probably 50 to 100 women that started on the Camino. And just to give you an idea, last year, 2023, was the most people that have walked on the Camino or got their Compostela in Santiago. Over 475,000 people got their Compostela. That's not counting people who only walked part of it, because of time or whatever. 65% of them were American women.
Wow. So, do you think June is a good time to avoid the crowd and the heat?
Definitely to avoid the heat. June is probably one of the better, and it is fairly crowded during that time. It's crowded every time right now because it's just getting more popular. This year, again, last year was like 465. I think they're very close to hitting 500,000 people getting their Compostela. Again, that's not counting like last year after I finished the Portuguese to Santiago, my friend Leah and a guy from the year before that we met there, we went to the coast to finish there, the Atlantic coast, and another 100 and something kilometers to that. But after they left, I actually stayed 6 nights there, and then I went back to Santiago to meet Jeff Davidson. He was walking the French route again with another friend of his, and I met him as he walked into the plaza there in Santiago and got to spend some time with him, but he did it again. And my point being, I forgot, but but there's so many people walking now. June is a really good time I've only walked it in August and September when it's brutally hot in the last couple of years.
Yes. So not speaking Spanish at all is okay?
I would recommend learning a few things, but yeah, you're fine not doing any Spanish. Most people can speak a little bit of English, and there's enough people that you meet. I walked across the Meseta that year when I was talking about that. I walked with a group that I met coming out of Burgos, a couple from Valencia who spoke no English at all. I walked with met a guy from Brazil who spoke Portuguese, a little bit of Spanish, and a little bit of English. And I walked with two teachers from San Sebastian, Spain, who spoke Basque, a little Spanish, and a little of English. And I walked with them for 6 to 10 days across the Meseta, and we got along just fine. The Spanish people couldn't understand me. They would translate a little bit. Those who understood English would translate, the Spanish to me and my English to them, and I got to where I could kind of understand the gist of what they were saying even as we were walking across. So you don't really have to do it. Most people do not speak the Spanish there at all. I said, as far as those who do the walking, there are people from all over the world that do the walking. So you'll get by fine without knowing Spanish. Again, it would help to know some basic words, but
Like beer, toilet.
Beer.
I didn't notice any pictures of porta potties along the way. I don't know if we want to record your answer about that, but let's go to Susan and Mike Milstein, and Janice Litvin put a very good translation app in the chat. Yes. Susan.
Okay, the first thing for any woman that wants to travel alone, I'm the woman that travels worldwide alone. And if you talk to strangers, you are never alone. That's number one. And Tony, that was going to be my question to you, is having heard you speak before, it seems to me that there's negative self-talk, all of that, but it seems that the cadre of people with whom you walked became I've heard you call them your family.
Yeah, my Camino.
I just wonder how much, and of course this is how I live my life, but how much those connections and new friends helped you overcome and move forward.
I do consider them my Camino family. I mentioned going to Germany and Denmark. One of the guys I met in my first Camino is from Germany. He invited me to come stay at his house. I spent June of this year at his house. We walked the Camino together. I met Leia in that first year. We walked Portugal to that. I went and saw her when I was in Germany. And I also met, when I went to Najera with my knee, you saw me showing off my knee. I had met the 4 ladies there that I had not seen since the first day because they walked a lot slower than me. And we started walking the rest of the way, and I saw them off and on until they left early. And I met and saw them, one from Germany in Nuremberg. I went and saw her in Nuremberg. And one of my friends, one of those, was a lady from Taiwan who just happened to be in Germany the same time I was. So I got to meet her, and we went to tour one of the German towns there with our friend from Nuremberg. So yeah, they helped me throughout. I mean, we built such a great relationship. They helped me translate, those who spoke Spanish, but I had friends and still have friends from all over the world now that have invited me to come spend, whatever I need to in their homes, wherever I'm at. I've got the second time I met folks from Ireland again. Tony Kilkenny is now one of my best friends. Again, you meet people, you're never alone. Everybody there is looking out for you. They're protecting you. Women, you've got people there that become great friends, women, men, everybody. It's just, there is sometimes a problem, but, most of the time you're there with people who are on the same path that you are, literally and figuratively, and they want to help you out and you just get inspired by some of the people. We walked with this 2 guys, 18, one of them celebrated their 19th birthday on Fonsabadan, and but they had no money. They were operating on a €6 a day budget. They'd stop at the store, you'd see them with the baguette in their pack, and they'd get some bread or the baguette and something to spread on it, and that's what they would eat. We would buy them beers, we would help buy their dinner or something just to help with them. It's just a wonderful community, and again, the people become your Camino family. I can't really talk about it without that being the highlight of my trip. and it still is. I mean, I've got people and friends for life. My friend Tony Kilkenny from Ireland. Yeah, I'm sitting there on the Camino and I'm heading out one morning. The night before, I had heard this violin playing. I'm going, oh, what is that? And I go and there's this guy playing a violin in one of the church courtyards. He's just there by himself playing. I'm going, oh, as I stood there and listened for a while. The next morning, I spent a wonderful night in this wonderful albergue with wonderful food. But got up the next morning, I'm walking, and I start going, and I see somebody ahead of me, and I started walking behind them, and all of a sudden I hear from behind me, go, hey! And he pointed, says, I think it's this way. And I turn around, and there's this guy with an Irish accent, and I said, hey, how are you? He goes, oh, are you Irish? I go, no, do I sound Irish? He goes, yeah, you do. I said, oh, okay. So I go back, his name, it's Tony, and he was the fiddle player. And he, said, you're going the wrong way, so let's go here. So he yelled at the other folks, and they came there. But if he had not stopped me, I would have headed off, for however many kilometers I might have gotten. I have done that in the past as well, gotten off track because not paying attention or not seeing the signs. And but he helped me, and we've become lifelong friends now. He's thinking about moving to Albania next year now. So it's just the amazing relationships you develop with people on the Camino. Again, Jeff Davidson and I haven't really walked together on the Camino, but because of it, we're now lifelong friends. And it's just amazing.
Tony, that story you just told about stopping by a church, and pardon me if I sound like the Beatles say, no, it was Mamas and Papas, stopping by, hearing the fiddle, the essence of that story about going on the right path because someone redirected you is really a nugget story, because all of us, I bet, have someone who sent us on the right path because they noticed us going the wrong way. Just thought I'd tell you that. And I loved your line about train the right muscles.
Yeah.
Good. Now, is Mike Milstein still here, or did he have to leave? Because he was next.
I don't see him.
No, but this brings up, I have no sense of direction. I mean, so that what made me nervous, the idea of going alone. Because even if you get lost, if you're with someone, it's an adventure, it's fun. But to be wandering around in the middle of nowhere, I think, Tony, I love your speech. I love all the talks. I love Mark LeBlanc and, of course, your pal Jeff, when he spoke to us. The power of Golden Gate Breakfast Club speakers inspire us in so many different ways. I would rather hear about it than do it. That's okay.
That's okay.
Now, walking around the strip with Joe Venito, we do 25,000 steps a day. So I'm doing my part, but it is flat. So with that, let's see. Do we have
a question?
Really quick question. If you can describe in a few words what it was like, your own transformation from before your first Camino to today, how would you describe that transformation of yourself?
Wow.
What were you like before, and what are you like now?
Well, I've always been a goal achiever. Again, my hyperachievers, I've been teaching goal setting. I always wanted to do things, but I was always fat. I couldn't do a lot of things. So until 2018, I was, 300 pounds, so I didn't do any work, no exercise, no walking, no anything. And then I decided in 2018 I needed to take control of my life and lose the weight if I wanted to live longer, because I didn't have much if I, got much older at 300 pounds. So that got me started, but I had never been anywhere. I've done some cruises, never really went out of the country other than to Mexico on a cruise or something like that.
So you are fit, you're more healthy mentally, physically, and you're more happy and more spiritual and more emotionally in control.
Yes, exactly.
So
You know,
now you know how to answer that question in the future, Tony, because Joanne just gave you the answer.
exactly. Thank you, Joanne. Exactly. That's exactly it. I am now healthy. I can, I feel, after losing the weight and basically expanding my mind on the Camino, that's the main thing. I saw the history. I saw the culture. I was able to walk across the country. Even with a stop, you can still stop along the way. When I went back last year after I did the Portuguese, I flew back to Pamplona and started walking again from Pamplona all the way to Burgos. And I actually walked those 17 kilometers that I had to take a taxi just so I could make sure that I walked all the way across the country. And even though I realized I didn't miss much in that particular part of it, but it was still good. But yeah, I am more calm, more relaxed. Again, I don't have problems. I have opportunities that I can look at. When I lost my job, I was not worried.
I'm inviting anybody here to join me in the practice hike, and probably on Camino this summer, June.
Well, I do plan on being in Spain doing more hiking on the Camino. You mentioned the Primitivo. That is one of the hardest, that and the Del Norte. My friends in Germany, when I was in Germany, we were actually going to all go down and walk the Primitivo. I had to go back home to switch tenants and things like that, so I didn't get to stay. But that was my plan, was to go walk the Primitivo with them. They all walked the Primitivo, the folks that I had went with in Spain before. And the pictures they sent are just phenomenal. So much better than than any of the other parts of the Camino. If you like, again, it is a strenuous hike, and they had some good workouts, but they made it and everything else. So that is one that I will be doing this summer as soon as it gets in maybe June. So maybe I'll meet you over there and we can walk that one, because that is on my list this year to walk, because it is such a beautiful hike there. So
Let's do it.
Betty Taish has a question. And Susan, do you have a second question? Yes. Okay, so Betty Taish, then Susan again.
Okay. Thank you, Tony, for a great presentation. And I want to say that I have definitely seen a change from the prior time that you gave a presentation to our club, which was 3 years, I don't know how many years ago. Your enthusiasm is absolutely contagious, whether it's on the screen or off the screen. And your presence, your presentation, the ability to articulate, and just a sense of calm yet strength is just pervasive. And I just want to say you've done beautifully. And thank you for sharing all of your insights.
thank you very much.
And Janice Litvin reminded us it was 2017 that Tony spoke to us first. And I believe that was about how they created the culture of First Republic. Good.
Yes. And I think it was in the fall it was while we were in the academy together, which was fall of 2016 to spring of 2017. And I was so impressed, like, oh, Tony spoke for the GGBC. Maybe someday I'll get to speak for GGBC. So that was a very exciting day for me.
Well, what can I say?
Okay, I got a question. I'm glad
we invited you. Now, Susan Rowan.
Okay, Tony, you talked about the guys that had baguettes. But what I want to know is, I know you said you had some extra money and there were things you could do, like you could spend a night somewhere, etc. What does it cost? I mean, there's airfare, etc. But tell us practically, what is the financial investment one would have to think about?
If you're going to eat real food and sleep in real beds.
Okay, well, most of the time we slept in real beds. Now, we didn't, the best thing, and where you meet all the wonderful people, are staying in what they call the albergues or hostels.
Yeah.
You can stay in them. I've stayed in one, which is interesting. I booked a room or bed in this one along the way. One of my favorite albergues that I ever stayed at in the entire Caminos, Casa Las Almas. But it had 4 beds in this one room and 1 out in the hallway. And it was the first one that year that had this. Again, it's just past COVID, most of them use throwaway sheets and stuff. When this one was the first one with linen sheets and pillowcases and towels and everything. But it was just the most wonderful German couple who had walked the Camino, decided they wanted to buy a house there and open it as an albergue. But the interesting thing is, I mentioned the ladies that I ran into in the Harrow when I went to the doctor and got my knee done. Two of those happened to be staying in that same albergue, so we slept in that same room together with those two ladies and I there. And well, you sleep with people all the time, and we don't worry about that.
Oh,
But
good. So this is on the brochure. You sleep with people you haven't met before.
Yeah,
Okay, good. Now,
And that's-
how much does it cost, is Susan?
it really depends, and again, it's getting much more expensive as more people are doing it. But I'll be honest, the first year and in Portugal it was a little bit more expensive, but on average, it's anywhere from, for a bed a night, is anywhere from €8 to €10 for a night for most of the albergues, somewhere up
So
to
add it all up.
I don't have the total, but it was very inexpensive, maybe $1,000 something total for maybe less than $2,000 for food and accommodations through 30 something days of hiking. Most of the food you can go, a lot of the albergues, you get a meal with that. It's called, they have the Pilgrim's menu, which is usually a 3-course meal. Basically, you get your first course, which is you can get a salad or pasta or something like that. Second course is usually a meat of some type, and they usually have a pork or chicken or lamb or something like that, and then a dessert, and of course you get wine and or water with that if you want. So those usually range anywhere from €8 at the time it was equal, so $8 a meal to 15. The hotel that I stayed at when I was whining about my knee, that was a 3-star, very nice hotel with a very nice restaurant, and a nice restroom too, but nice restaurant. And the meal there was a full, again, 3-course Pilgrim's menu, €15 at that place for the meal. Some of them, you paid, most of them, it was $8 to $10, for a meal for one of the Pilgrim's meals at the albergue.
That's plus airfare.
No, that's not counting the airfare.
Oh, no, I know. Okay, that's what I'm saying. And airfare is an addition.
There's in addition to that, and that really depends. I mean, the first year I didn't pay anything. I had my membership points and paid for business class airfare with points my first year. So I didn't really pay, other than the amount of money I spent to get those points. I didn't pay anything for that. Last year, going to Portugal, my airfare, I think round trip was $800 or so for that. Economy. So it really depends on where you're, coming from and things like that. That's one of the nice things.
Well, I'm more interested in the 5-star version. However, Carl Walsh did comment as a single man, that this sleeping arrangement is better than online dating. And also he wants to know, do you pay credit cards or cash in most places?
Either way, they most on the Caminos, most of the places in Spain and Portugal take credit card or Apple Pay, whatever. Somebody, depending on the albergues, if it's like a municipal albergue or a church albergue, they prefer cash only. So most of the time I had like €300 cash on me, and at the end of both times I've had to spend it on something, or I cashed it back in when I got to the bank when I got home, because I rarely used cash. Most of it I was using Apple Pay or something along the way, or card. But they take a little bit of everything.
Oh, Patricia, can we have the recording of this?
Yes, the recording is always, Tony puts it up for us on our YouTube channel. And also in our Golden Gate Breakfast Club LinkedIn profile, he posts it there as well. So it's very
I'll make sure to get it to you, the link to you, Joanne, so don't worry.
Yeah.
I'd like to have it too, please.
All right, with that, I have to go, but I leave Carl in charge. Thank you very much, Tony. This was absolutely great. Even if I don't want to do it, I am very interested in the mental part of this, because that helps us accomplish anything. And everybody, don't forget, invite your pals for next week with Noah. He will be singing, as well as giving us some great updates on famous San Francisco Christmas events. And with that, I have to go. My car battery is being charged, and the person is coming to help me. My own silly mistake. So thank you, Tony. As always, lots of fun. Carl, you're in charge.
Cool. Yeah, if you want to see what it's like without walking it, I would encourage you to watch the movie The Way with Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez. It's a great movie. It's from back in 2010. They just re-released it, and they actually have a sequel coming out in the near future. And there's a couple other movies that are coming out about it as well. And you can always watch people's stuff on YouTube. Efren Gonzalez is one of my favorite people to watch on YouTube. He has some great videos of his Caminos, and he's done many.
What Gonzalez?
Efren, Efrin, I believe, or En. Rin or
F-I-N Gonzalez.
Gonzalez.
Okay.
Yeah, Walking with Efren is, I think, one of the things. But he's got many YouTube videos out there. One of the best that you can see.
Okay.
There's many good ones, and there's a new movie coming out as well.
Okay, so the brand name called Willie Mills is
Woolly Mills, Woolly, Wolly.
Oh,
Yeah, that's where I got my underwear from.
Okay.
My marine underwear.
Tony, I just want to thank you. This was wonderful. I will live my life through you doing this and enjoy it. But my hat's off to you. That's all I could say.
Yeah, I'm just hankering, as I say, for my next one. I'm ready to go now. It's just winter time, and they're covered in snow up most of it, and I don't do snow.
So Tony, we're going to talk Zoom and coordinate. I'm going. Okay. Last year I was intimidated going by myself, and after this, thank you so much. I'm going.
Good. Well, yeah. Let's keep in touch.
Yes.
Thank you, Tony.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody.
I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
All
Y'all
right,
have a
Tony. Thanks again.
Thank you. I hope
I
can
look
get on it
forward to
later.
I look forward to continuing our competition there, Tony.
That's right. Yes, we'll definitely continue the conversation.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.